This time I'm going to explain about the first unit, models of the particulate nature of matter, where it has 4 different subtopics, but I'm going to explain the first 2 subtopics only: elements, compounds, and mixtures, and chromatography. For the first subtopics, you need to know how to distinguish between the properties of elements, compounds, and mixtures. Also, several separation techniques like solvations, filtration, recrystallization, evaporation, distillation, and paper chromatography. However, I will exclude from these subtopics about paper chromatography more detail. And also you need to know the differences between homogeneous and heterogeneous mixtures. Matter classification. When we're talking matter, you can find around us. Matter is everywhere and made up everything, including me and you. Your laptop, your tablet, your TV, or your bicycle, or any single things that has mass and occupies space, it's a matter. And it is classified to be 2, which is pure substances and mixture. When you drink a water as a pure substances, where it has no color, no taste, and no smell, that water is a pure substances. And it has a fixed properties and also composition. For example, water always have 2 hydrogen atom and 1 oxygen atom. But when you add sugar or salt into that water, you can taste sweet or salt, okay? Then you can call that water as a mixture. Pure substances cannot be simplified anymore through a physical method or separation technique because it's a pure. And the example of pure substances, or 2 things that are included as a pure substances, are elements and compounds. Example of elements you can find in the periodic table. All things that are on the periodic table, all elements are the example of the elements as a pure substances. For example, potassium cannot be simplified anymore by any chemical means because it's a pure substances. Potassium has its own properties, and when it is combined with other elements, for example, forming potassium dichromate, it's a compound, then potassium properties will change because it's combined with other elements. Mixture has 2 types of mixture: homogeneous and heterogeneous. The difference between homogeneous and heterogeneous: homogeneous has a uniform composition and properties, but not for heterogeneous. The example of homogeneous, like salt solution or sugar solutions, you can't see sugar anymore when it's completely dissolved in the water, but it is still a mixture. But for heterogeneous, like air, when it has smoke, black color from the factory and combined with other gases like nitrogen or oxygen, you can see the color, black color. You can differentiate this one and this gas with other gas as long as it has a color, and you can smell them also. So that one is one of the example of heterogeneous mixture. Identify which of the following formulas represent elements and which represent compounds. The one that represent elements, obviously it's carbon and helium. You can find them in data booklet as in helium itself and carbon itself. But compounds are KCl and H2O. It's a combination between potassium and chlorine, and this one between hydrogen and oxygen. Why do the components of a mixture retain their individual properties? Because they're not chemically bonded together, like an HCl. NaCl, they're chemically bonded together, and it's not a mixture. But salt and water, they're not chemically bonded together, but they're just mixed. That's why it's called a mixture. Identify the correct descriptions about mixtures. First, the components can be elements or compounds. Elements, example, combination of elements like alloy. When you want to form a better properties of combination of elements like stainless steel, so you need to combine several elements. And compounds, when you dissolve salt, NaCl, as a compound into the water. So the first one is correct. Second one, all components must be in the same phase. NaCl is a compound, solid, but water is a liquid. So it doesn't need to be the same phase. It can be different, but still form mixture. The components retain their individual properties, like the second question. Mixtures will retain their individual properties. I mean, the components from the mixture will retain their individual properties because they're not chemically bonded together. So the third one is correct. Therefore, the answer is B. Separation techniques. There are several separation techniques: filtration, evaporation, recrystallization, solvation, distillation, and paper chromatography. Paper chromatography will be explained later after the subtopics. Let's talk about filtration, evaporation, and recrystallization. When you want to separate mud or sand that is mixed with water, you can use filtration. So here is the filter paper. Okay, you pour that mixture into the funnel, then the sand will be here as a residue. As long as the particle size is bigger than the pore size of the filter paper, then the sand will be here as a residue. Water will be separated and goes through filter paper and funnel, and it comes as filtrate. Filtration is a separation technique that is used to separate insoluble solid from a liquid. Evaporation and recrystallization. These two techniques can be combined together to separate any solution from the solute. Okay, to separate solute and solvent that form a solution. For example, sugar solution, salt solution, or copper sulfate solution. We want to separate sugar crystal from water. Then evaporate the water first by adding up the heat, and just make sure that sugar crystal will not be burned. Okay, so of course we need to be careful, and when you try to make sure that the sugar crystal is not burned, of course there will be a little bit of water left. Then you can move to the recrystallization technique, where you need to leave this crystal that has or contains still a little bit of water, leave it for a few days. Then under room temperature, this water will evaporate by itself and you can collect the sugar crystal. Solvation is a separation technique to separate two solutes based on their solubility in a solution. For example, a mixture between copper oxide and sodium chloride. So when you stir it, NaCl will dissolve completely in the water, but not copper oxide because it's difficult to dissolve in the water. Then you can separate the copper oxide that is not dissolved in the water, and it will be residue here on the filter paper, and the salt solution will be here as a filtrate. And then you can go through the same process, evaporation and recrystallization. So you add up heat to evaporate water, and you can collect the salt crystal right here. Next technique is distillation. It's a separation technique to separate two or more miscible liquids based on their different boiling points. For example, between ethanol and water, we can't see ethanol and water because they're both transparent, but you can smell that there is ethanol in the water. So you need to make sure the boiling point between these two, as ethanol boiling point is 78 degrees Celsius, around 78, and water 100. So you need to make sure that the temperature here doesn't reach near to 100 degrees Celsius, because we don't want water to evaporate as well. Otherwise, we can't separate them. So to be safe, maybe you just need to make sure here the temperature around 80 to 85 degrees Celsius. Then when you heat up this distillation flask where ethanol and water in it, the ethanol start to evaporate and goes to the condenser. Then the condenser will cool down the ethanol gas and it will turn back into the liquid. And here you can collect the ethanol, and here water will be left. You separate them. Okay, the next subtopics is about chromatography, where you need to know how to explain, calculate, and interpret the retardation factor values, RF. The knowledge of the use of locating agent in chromatography is not required. Also, the knowledge about gas chromatography, GC, and HPLC, high performance liquid chromatograph, also are not required. Chromatography is a separation technique that is used to analyze and identify components or compound in a mixture. So you just need to put a small amount of a mixture here on the baseline. Then on the piece of paper, okay, it's a paper chromatography. So a piece of paper is acting as a stationary phase and allowing the solvent, here is the solvent, to travel up to this area that we call solvent front. Okay, this solvent is acting as a mobile phase. The components or compounds that is mixed in the mixture will travel up based on their solubility in the solvent. So the rates depending on the solubility on the solvent. And the line here, it should be drawn by using a pencil, because if you use ink, it will disturb the experiment, because ink also could be a mixture and you can't differentiate whether the sample or the ink. And after you put the small amount of the mixture, first you need to draw the line using a pencil, and then you put the dot or a small amount of a mixture, and then you place this paper into the container, this container or a jar, and you can hang them using a thread and cover it using a lid, because otherwise the solvent will evaporate and you finish the solvent. So there won't be any mobile phase to carry out the components. Okay, this distance will be measured later on from the solvent front up to the baseline. Again, the function of chromatography also not only to identify the component in a mixture, also can identify whether this is a mixture or a pure substance. How? Look at this red color on the chromatogram. Chromatogram is a paper chromatography with the result of your experiment already done. Then the first dot, it has two colors, yellow and pink. The fourth one, which is the purple color, it has yellow, pink, and blue. It means they are a mixture. And for the second and third one, it produced only one color. It means these two are pure substances. This how when you differentiate, this is how when three components travel up on the piece of paper or paper chromatography, a greater affinity for the solvent will make the component solve more readily compared to other component. Therefore, it will travel up faster compared to other component. To calculate the RF value, we need the distance moved by component and distance moved by solvent. So you can use a ruler to measure the distance here, and also the spot A and also the spot B. Okay, here, spot B. Example, the first spot is 8 centimeter, right? And the solvent 9 centimeter. So to calculate the RF value, the distance moved by component, which is 8 centimeter, divided by the distance moved by solvent, which is 9 centimeter. So 8 centimeter divided by 9 centimeter, and you will get 0.89. And the second spot, it's 4 divided by 9 centimeter, which is 0.44. Be careful. When you do the calculation, don't just calculate up to the fractional, but also finish it until you get the decimal result. And remember, RF doesn't have any value. Remember, RF doesn't have any unit, so it's just a number. Let's do this example. So the first spot is 9 centimeter, and the distance moved by the solvent is 12 centimeter. So the RF first spot is 9 centimeter divided by 12 centimeter, which is 0.75 centimeter. And then the RF second spot is 6 centimeter divided by 12 centimeter is 0.5. Okay, sorry, this one has no unit, so 0.5. So the RF value of the second spot is less than the first spot. So that's how you calculate the RF value. Thin layer chromatography. It's actually another type of chromatography, but with the same principle, but different material. Thin layer chromatography basically is a metal or a glass coated with silicon dioxide or aluminum dioxide, and the price is more expensive compared to the paper chromatography, but has a greater sensitivity compared to the paper chromatography. All right, so we can see here red dot and yellow dots. And red dots move slower compared to the yellow dots. Why? I'll explain it. First, you need to know that the solvent that will be used for the thin layer chromatography, mostly non-polar solvent. So the solvent is non-polar, and coated material like silicon dioxide or aluminum dioxide, it's polar. And you see this moves slower compared to yellow. It means that yellow is a non-polar component, because the more readily to dissolve in the solvent, the faster it travels. This one is non-polar component, and this one is obviously polar. It takes some time to dissolve because a non-polar solvent, but the dots are polar component, and also the coated materials is polar. So there is such an interaction between the red dots with the coated materials on the surface. That's why the RF value from the red dots is smaller compared to the yellow dots. All right, the next video, I'll be talking about the kinetic molecular theory, where you need to know how to distinguish the different states of matter and they use state symbol in chemical equations. So we've just talked about the classification of matter, the several of separation techniques, and also chromatography, how it works, or the principle, how to calculate the RF value, and the difference between thin layer chromatography and paper chromatography. All right. Remember, with the nail IB, as long as you follow the instruction very well, you will achieve that perfect score of 7. See you in the next video.